Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of IET with mikeC. Man, I am so glad to be with you here today. And look, I know I say that every time, but trust me, it is true every time. I recognize and I realize it is a blessing every day that the Lord allows me to wake. So thank God, and I am certainly glad that you are here as well. Look, we did a snippet somewhere around 10 days ago where we talked about what you can expect on this next show, which is today's show. And that was, we were going to talk about Roe versus Wade, the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Now, look, I know that it's been talked about a lot. They've gone through it and through it and through it. But there is one area that I don't think that has been dealt with. I don't remember seeing or hearing anyone talk about this one aspect of Roe versus Wade. And that is what is underneath the surface of Roe versus Wade. There's a lot to it, and we're going to get to it right here, right now. Here we go. Let's look at the surface of Roe versus Wade. On the surface, it's about not just abortion. On the surface, it's about another freedom. The freedom of a woman to decide what's best for her body, her life. The party of small government is looking more and more these days like Big Brother. And if Clarence Thomas is correct, they will become Big Brother. Now, look, we already can't go anywhere these days without a camera documenting our every move. And according to Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court taking away a woman's choice to decide, taking away a woman's right to say she doesn't want to keep a baby that was impregnated into her forcibly by a rapist. According to Thomas, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, is just the beginning of the Supreme Court taking away more and more of your rights. Look, as men, we're supposed to be protecting women. But now we have a man on the Supreme Court who is accused or was accused of forcing himself on a woman. Now that man, Thomas, is saying a woman has no right to decide what will happen to her life after she has been raped. How ironic is that? And based on this decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, it looks like 3 to 5 members of the court, the Supreme Court, including Thomas, it looks like they lied during their confirmation hearings. Look, if we can't trust the men and women of the United States Supreme Court, if we can't trust them to be men and women of honor, with good character, to be honest, if we can't trust them to exude these traits, how can we trust our judicial system in this country at all? Look, let's take a look. Let's take a minute and take a look at what I believe is beneath the surface of overturning Roe versus Wade. Let's start with the results of abortion in this country. When you have young girls who are forced to have babies they don't want, and the father of that baby doesn't want, what you are doing in most cases is regulating that young girl and her baby to poverty. Did you know that the highest number of convicted criminals in this country come from economically disadvantaged families? A lot of them are from single family households. Look, a lot of those young men are brown and black men forced into poverty. Some might say slavery. In essence, what's happening is that the wealthy and powerful in America are ensuring that they stay wealthy and in control. You see, they know something. They know why their smaller party is so against brown and black people immigrating into this country. They know that America is literally getting darker by the day. That's why Tucker Carlson interjected the great myth, his great myth. He was trying to instill fear into the hearts of the good people of this country, especially good white folks, by interjecting his nonsense replacement theory. On September 22nd, television host Tucker Carlson provided his own theory as to what was happening at the border. In a segment titled "Nothing About What's Happening is an Accident," Carlson said that the current U.S. border policies is designed to change the racial mix of the country. In political terms, this policy is called the Great Replacement. The replacement, as Tucker said, of legacy Americans with more obedient people from far away countries. Did you hear that? More obedient people from far away countries. He's talking about people of color. And what he's saying is people of color are lesser than. People of color are subservient. This is not new, folks. This is Tucker Carlson. Do you really know who Tucker Carlson is? Did you know that Tucker Carlson is part of the 1% in this country? Yes, 1%. The man is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Carlson concluded that President Biden's policy with regard to the Haitian immigrants has put the U.S. on a suicidal path. Did you hear that? So if you do anything for people of color that's positive, you let people of color more into this country, and you're putting this country on a path of suicide. If that doesn't say that Tucker Carlson and his clan are racist, again, and when I say his clan, I'm talking about the 1%. And I'm not talking about all of the 1%. Not everybody at that level has that mindset. But Tucker clearly does. This shows you that Tucker is in step with his supreme leader of the little people, who referred to a continent of predominantly people of color as shithole countries. Then, while referring to Scandinavians immigrating into this country, he said, "These are the kinds of people we want coming into this country." What does that tell you? Look, folks, this is not new. If you don't think America has been a leadership of discrimination and racism in the world, then you don't even have to look at slavery, which proves this within itself. Have you ever heard of the Chinese Exclusion Act? No? Let me tell you. The Chinese Exclusion Act prohibited all immigration of Chinese laborers coming into this country. How about the Emergency Quota Act? Ever heard of that? Well, the Emergency Quota Act was designed to keep out Jews and immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe. Look, that proves right there that, when we think about discrimination in this country, we think most of the time that it's referencing people of color. And most of the time it is, but not all of the time. This right here tells you the Emergency Quota Act was designed to keep Jews and immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe out of the country. These were not black folk. These were not Latinos. But still yet, they were not worthy, according to people like Tucker Carlson, of immigrating into this country. Now, granted, the Exclusion Act, that was years before Tucker was ever born, but I bet it's something he probably agrees with. I've said this before. Do you know what is the catalyst of racism and discrimination? It's ignorance, which feeds off of fear. I'll say this again. I believe most people in this country are good people. That's people of all races, creeds, colors, religions, and economic backgrounds. I believe that somewhere between 70 and 80% of these people, these Americans, I believe 70 to 80% of all Americans are good-hearted, fair-minded people. But fear. And fear is like pressure. And you know what they say about pressure, man. Pressure can burst a steel pipe. You had more people, did you know this? More people voted for Donald Trump than had voted for any candidate in the history of the presidency of this country. Yes, the last election had something like 74 million people vote for Donald Trump. That's more than had voted for anyone had won the office of presidency in this country. Now, because they voted for Donald Trump, does that make those people bad? No. Like I said, I believe that 70 to 80% of all Americans are good people, fair-minded people. But what happens is you have people get on the mic and twist they don't even twist, they flat out lie. And when you have instituted fear, when you have placed fear in the hearts and minds of people, then it's easy for you to persuade them to do what you want them to do. It's easy for you to persuade them to attack our capital. That's easy to do. And then you turn around and you say they were stupid. Come on, people. He's talking about you if you were at the Capitol. He's talking about you if you voted for him. We have to stop this. We have to remember what Martin Luther King Jr. said. Martin Luther King Jr. said this: justice anywhere, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So, are you your brother's keeper in essence? In some sense, in a lot of ways, in a lot of instances, yes, you are. Yes, I am. Yes, we are. So what that means is we can't sit by and do nothing when we see injustice. If you want to continue to make America great, and do you know what has made America great? What has made America great and continues to make America great has been and is her diversity. People of all races, creeds, colors, religions, all coming together under one flag, the American flag. That's our flag. That's people who are descendants of slaves. That's people who are descendants of those who came across on boats over the oceans. That's people who have been fleeing persecution in South America and in Asia. They all make up us Americans. And we cannot stand by and watch injustice and do and say nothing. Do you know when the civil rights movement became successful? Because you have to understand this. Most people don't realize that there were a lot of people, a lot of white people killed supporting the civil rights movement. Go to, I believe it's Birmingham, Selma, I think even Atlanta. Go to the Civil Rights Museum in those cities and you will see, especially in Selma, I saw this in Selma, the number of white people killed supporting civil rights. That's why civil rights was successful, not just because black people marched, but because Americans marched. White people marched, Native Americans marched, Latinos marched, Asians marched. We all marched together. After George Floyd was killed, I was so impressed. I was so taken back, just overwhelmed by some of the marches that I saw. Now, I'm not in favor of marches, but what I saw was Black Lives Matter marches, and there was not one black person in the crowd. This was not just in America. These were in foreign countries, where places where you don't have a lot of black people, like Ireland. And I saw Black Lives Matter marches. Why? Because people decided we cannot sit on the sidelines and allow this to continue to happen. I encourage you to take a stand for good. Take a stand for justice. Take a stand for America, the true America, which is an America of all colors, all creeds, all races, all economic backgrounds. That's America. And that's what has made and will continue to make America great. We cannot continue on either side, Republican, Democratic, we cannot continue to vote people in office who are not going to support us, the people, who are going to support special interest, big business. We have to recognize when that's happening. And if it's happening to somebody in office, we got to vote them out of office, regardless of party. And we have to remember, regardless of party, we're all Americans, folks. We're all Americans. Something that was attributed to Abraham Lincoln, and I'm going to paraphrase this. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he said, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we lose our liberties, it will be because it came from within. We can't let that happen right now. Now, he didn't say those exact words. I researched it, but he said it was a speech that he gave that in essence said that. So they kind of put it together like that. But it really is prevalent right now, because what's going on right now is politicians I'm just speaking truth, more on the Republican side, but it's happened on the Democratic side too. Politicians try to divide us. If they can divide us, they can control us. If they can interject fear into our hearts and our minds, they can control us. We can't let that happen. We have to stop it. So again, as far as Roe versus Wade overturned, I look deeper than what's on the surface. On the surface, it looks like it's about abortion. It looks like it's about taking away rights and freedoms. Both of those things are true, but there's more to it. If you can get these young girls, and we're talking about a lot of them are minorities, if you can get these young girls to have babies that they don't want and they can't afford, then you get them on welfare, government assistance. You get them into poverty. And when someone is on government assistance, the government has control over them and their children. Control. What happens then? Like I said earlier, most criminals, most people who are convicted of crimes in this country come from economically disadvantaged environments, families. Once you get someone into the penal institution, into prison, into jail, you have total control. So what is Roe versus Wade about? It's about the wealthy staying wealthy, staying in control, and controlling the people. That's not new either. I'll go into that another time when that happened, but this is not the first time that that's happened. I've said this before also. I grew up in a very diverse community. Now, that doesn't mean it was 50% white, 50% black, or 50% Latino, 50% white. Matter of fact, the community that I grew up in never reached more than 8 or 9%. I don't even think it got that high while I lived there, but it was very diverse. Why? Because you had people of all races, creeds, and colors living amongst each other, working amongst each other, going to school together, even going to church together. And yes, you've heard that saying that the most, the most segregated place in America is church on Sunday mornings. there's a lot to that. It's trying to change in some areas, but there's still a lot to that. We have to change all of that. We have to choose to change all of that. I met a friend over the 4th of July weekend, and he shared something with me. He went to a school that was bused. He was bused. And he said, you might think that that's diversity, he said, Mike, but it's not. You see, we were bused and forced to go to school together, but we didn't live around each other. So I went to school, and then I went back home to my black neighborhood. And he said, that's different. You don't gain the benefits of diversity with a situation like that. He said, it really starts with living in the same community. When people live in the same community, there's going to be some differences. But when people live in the same community, that's when people are able to have empathy for people who don't look like them. So that's why the community I grew up in, North Highlands, California, one of the greatest communities on the planet of the earth, one of the greatest communities in this country. Diversity always has made this country great. And if we do not fall for the okie doke, if we do not allow ourselves to be divided, America will still continue to be great. Last thing, the small party has been raising a lot of noise about being the party of small government, the party that fights for your rights, your freedoms, your rights to bear arms, your right to not pay an arm and a leg in taxes. The leaders of the small party want you to believe that the bigger party will stifle your rights, tax you over a barrel. And, well, folks in California, when it comes to gas especially, they might have something to say about that too. But look, the small party wants you to believe that the bigger party wants to take away your guns. Let's look at that real quick. Let's look at those things and a few others. Let's start with the right to bear arms. I believe in the Second Amendment very much. I believe citizens in this country should be able to own a handgun or a shotgun or a hunting rifle. On September 29, 1789, Congress passed an act to establish the United States military, although it wasn't until 1791 that a small regular army was formed, called the Legion of the United States, then renamed to the United States Army in 1796. Many historians believe that the writing of the Second Amendment was in reference to the ability of citizens to be able to bear arms, with the ability to quickly form an army when we didn't have one. Well, since we have a standing army now, best army in the world, I might add, there's no need for normal citizens that are not serving in the armed services to have weapons of mass destruction. Do you know how easy it is legally right now for thugs to outgun our police forces? It has been primarily weapons of mass destruction used against our children in school mass killings. Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz are not fighting for your rights to carry handguns, to own a shotgun or a hunting rifle. They are fighting for the rights of confused young men to continue to kill innocent children. They are fighting for the rights of major corporations to continue to make money from death, the deaths of innocent children. The Second Amendment protects your rights to bear arms. We have to recognize, for the safety, for the lives of our children, we have to recognize the lives of innocent children, to gather in peace, to learn without fear. We have to recognize that you have the right to send your child to school like my parents did, and know that they are safe because the weapons of mass destruction have been removed from the rights and freedoms of mentally deranged nuts to take a life of another innocent child. We have to look at things like when you have politicians who make more money from donations from the NRA, gun manufacturing companies, when they make more money from them than they do their salary, who do you think that they're going to be loyal to? You, who pay their salary, or the corporations, the companies, and the special interest that give them more money than you do? You got to look at it. You have to look at the results of abortion. Yes, it's taking away the rights of women, but it's also continuing a line of poverty, which puts young women and their children in the control of the government, which puts young men in penal institutions where they are controlled. So Roe versus Wade being overturned, yes, it's about rights being taken away. It's about abortion, but it's also about power and control and the continuing of it in one place. You got to look deeper and you got to act. I implore you to vote. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, vote. Vote for justice. Vote for right. Vote. And stop allowing people to divide us, to divide you. Stop it. That's going to be it for today. We have a few more things that we wanted to talk about, but, we don't want this show to go too long. There used to be a saying some years ago, people used to say all the time, what would Jesus do? So I'm going to implore you to use that. What would Jesus do? If you're a Muslim, what would Muhammad do? What would Allah do? What would Buddha do? Whatever God that you serve, what would they do? Would they march on our capital, killing people who are there to serve and protect? I don't think so. If you're listening to someone on the radio, watching someone on television, and they're spewing hate, you know what hate is. Turn them off. Pay them no mind. Pay them no mind. Because again, it's America's diversity that has made her great, will keep her great. Diversity, not division. We're going to end it there, and I'm going to ask you to do something else. Do something for a stranger that puts a smile on their face. Do something for a family member, a neighbor, a coworker, a classmate. Do something for someone for no reason that will put a smile on their face. And you will have done your deed in making the world a better place. Do that. Do that. And everybody will benefit from it. All right. Now, to him who is able to keep you from stumbling and present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy, to God our Savior, who alone is wise, be glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and forever. Amen. Also, until next time, you know what to do. Be easy now. God bless you and yours. Do something to cause someone else to smile for no reason. And we'll see you next show. Be easy now.